50 acres, $1.5 million. 10 attractions for a single ticket. $2.25 for an adult, $1.25 for a child. More than 200,000 visitors in the first year. 6.5 years later, the gates were chained. The ghost town was roped off behind a souvenir shop, and the whole property was being cleared for a condominium complex. This is Floridaland, a park that tried to sell you the entire state of Florida in one afternoon. And this is a rise and ruin story. But like most rise and ruin stories in this state, the park is not really what was for sale. Picture the west coast of Florida in 1964. No Disney, no SeaWorld. The big draws are Cypress Gardens, Six Gun Territory, Busch Gardens, a scattered constellation of roadside attractions, each one a full day's drive from the next. Two men, James E. Mears and Don Jacobs, had already built a Wild West ghost town attraction in Biloxi, Mississippi. Now, with an Osprey cattle rancher, they had a bigger idea. Take everything Florida's tourist attractions offered, the gardens, the ghost town, the porpoises, the animals, the boat ride, and put all of it on one piece of land, under one ticket price. In 1964, a single admission that covered every attraction was almost unheard of. It was the entire marketing pitch. They chose a quiet stretch of US 41 in Osprey, halfway between the Ringling Museum in Sarasota and the Circus Winter Quarters in Venice. Tourists were already driving that road. All they had to do was stop. Construction ran into the county's fireproof building code, which forbade an all-wood ghost town. So they built it out of concrete and nailed fake wooden facades over the outside. The summer opening slipped. On Christmas Day, 1964, Floridaland opened its gates on a former cattle ranch. 5,000 people came through on the first day. Here is what $2.25 bought you. A Wild West town with a gunfight every 90 minutes. The Golden Nugget Saloon, with dancing girls on the hour. A trading post, a bank, a general store, an ice cream parlor, and a church with its own graveyard. Many of the relics were donated antiques from the actual period. A whiskey still that dispensed sweet cider. The park's answer to Busch Gardens, minus the beer, because it couldn't get a liquor license. An Indian village that was, for reasons no one recorded, home to a family of seals. A deer park where you could hand-feed the animals. Goat Mountain, a small hill with goats on it, and technically the first mountain-themed attraction in the state. 2 miniature trains, which were an electric jeep pulling wagons, carrying you to the second half of the park. Saltwater pools with sea lions and porpoises performing throughout the day. 3 porpoises arrived days before opening. Only one, Moby Dick, was actually trained. In 1965, the park staged what it billed as the world's first porpoise-to-porpoise phone call, Moby Dick, on the line to a porpoise in Hawaii. Tropical gardens with more than 200 plant varieties, cataloged in a souvenir guide, and a riverboat cruise from the bay down to Sarasota and back, 45 minutes round trip. 10 mini parks, 1 gate. Local businesses ran the concessions. The Venice mayor operated the Wagon Wheel Cafe. Local crews built it. The county had rezoned a cattle ranch to make it happen, over objections, and by the end of the first year, the officials who'd voted for it were pointing at the crowds as proof they'd been right. For 1965, the park added an alligator farm with gator wrestling. This was going to work. Within 6 months of opening, 3 porpoises were dead. The stated cause was insecticide poisoning. The pools held 750,000 gallons, filled from the bay next door. The morning after the deaths, the fire department pumped the whole system dry and refilled it from the same bay. Mosquito spraying was suspected, then ruled out. The park promised no new porpoises until the water was proven safe. The water was never really proven safe. Sourcing an animal habitat from an open Florida bay was a problem the park would fight for the rest of its life. It was also a cost. Pumping, refilling, replacing animals, that never stopped. But the turnstiles kept spinning, and the next move looked like a triumph. In 1966, Holiday Inn issued a franchise for a 100-room hotel on the property, with a pool, garden, and patio overlooking the park. It opened in the summer of 1967. A gas station finally arrived on that empty stretch of 41. Osprey was becoming a destination. Then red tide hit the bay. The porpoise pools were poisoned again. The only clean salt water on the property was the brand new hotel swimming pool. So the park moved 9 porpoises into the Holiday Inn pool for a week. Guests who'd booked a resort vacation found the pool closed and full of dolphins. The hotel, it turned out, didn't need the pool. It added dinner shows and nightly entertainment, and it was booked solid. People were coming to Osprey to stay at the Holiday Inn, and the park next door was quietly failing to cover its costs. In 1967, control of Floridaland changed hands. The controlling stock was purchased by Charles Hamilton, who was elected president of the corporation. Charles Hamilton owned and operated the Holiday Inn. The park's management company was merged with a monorail and skyride manufacturer that built rides for state fairs. The park cut back to weekends only in the off-season, promised a refurbishment, and announced its first big new ride, a cable sky ride. It opened in 1969, 750 feet long, the shortest that company had ever built. It ran from the park to the Holiday Inn, 50 cents each way, on top of admission. The advertised purpose was to carry you to the hotel's buffet lunch and back. Read that again. Under the hotel owner, the park's headline. New attraction was a 50-cent conveyor belt to the hotel dining room. The new management bought out most of the local concessionaires and took the operations in-house. They promised an all-new Floridaland, a fairground area, new rides. None of it was built. Now there is a convenient villain waiting in the wings. In October 1971, Walt Disney World opened, 90 miles up the road. Every roadside attraction in Florida that died in the 1970s has, at some point, been blamed on Disney. Floridaland is no exception. But look at the dates. The Sky Ride was dismantled and shipped to the Illinois State Fair in 1970. On Labor Day 1970, more than a year before the Magic Kingdom opened, the ghost town closed for good. The gunfighters, the saloon dancers, the shopkeepers were all let go. The most popular section of the park was roped off and abandoned, while the billboards on 41 kept advertising it. Admission was cut by a quarter to compensate. The public explanation was personnel problems, and that there weren't enough guests to justify paying actors. Hamilton said the porpoise show was all anyone came for. Disney did not do this. Disney wasn't open yet. Here is what was actually happening. While the park was telling the press it might reopen the ghost town at Christmas, its owners had already filed a zoning variance request with the county. The plan was to convert the theme park into a campground for trailers and RVs, and turn the ghost town into a shopping center to serve the campers. No actors, no shows, no 750,000-gallon pool of sick porpoises. Just a hotel, next to a campground, next to a strip of shops. The county said no, so the owners went to the next buyer. In April 1971, the park's final, stripped-down season, a construction company announced it had agreed to purchase the 200 acres under Floridaland for more than $1 million, contingent on rezoning. The plan, a $30 million low-density condominium community with a golf course and boat docks. The Holiday Inn was excluded from the sale. That is the mechanism. In 1964, a cattle ranch was rezoned for a tourist attraction. In 1971, that attraction was the argument for rezoning the same land for housing. The park's operating business had been struggling for years. The land it sat on had appreciated the entire time. Floridaland closed on July 2nd, 1971, 3 months before Disney World opened, and about 10 weeks after the sale was announced. In December 1971, the county approved the residential rezoning over 1,500 written objections, asking that the land stay open space. In early 1972, a Sarasota developer paid $1.2 million for the property. The park was demolished piece by piece and replaced with houses. 10 attractions for one price. It turned out to be a very good price for the people holding the deed. Today, nothing of the park survives on the site. The Wild West town, the gardens, the goat hill, the pools, all under residential streets. The one building left standing is the Holiday Inn, still operating as a resort. In 2023, the Venice Museum added a small Floridaland exhibit. And there is one more loose end. In 1966, Moby Dick, the trained porpoise, the one who'd made the phone call to Hawaii, was being taught to follow a boat along the intracoastal waterway for a new attraction. During a training run, he broke away from the boat, ignored every command, and swam out until he was gone. A few weeks later, 60 miles north, a group of boys were out on a boat when a porpoise surfaced beside them and started doing tricks, even towing them through the water. They called him Sharpie. Floridaland put a $1,000 bounty on him and said if he was spotted again, they'd bring him home. He was never caught. Nobody can prove Sharpie was Moby Dick. But a one-eyed porpoise doing show tricks for strangers, 60 miles from the only place in Florida that trained one, is hard to explain any other way. The park closed, the land was sold. The porpoise, as far as anyone knows, kept performing, for free, for whoever happened to be on the water. That's the other side of the postcard.